Hey, what's up? What's going on, YouTube? Uh, so tonight, well, this morning, I guess, I want to talk about something because, like, March, I don't know, for some reason, March is my month. Um, like, first time, like, first woman I can say I actually loved, um, like, we started a relationship in March. So, I want to talk about this because this is game whether you understand it or you know it or not. Because at some point in life, as a man, you're gonna find a woman, and you wanna give her your everything. You wanna have kids with this woman. You wanna build with this woman. You might even wanna grow old with this woman. But it only stands the test of time, and for each have their own. And I know a lot of you guys, probably younger than me and probably older than me, you've probably either experienced it or you're going through it right now or you haven't even started it as yet. So let me dive into this. Boy, this was like back in, damn, '06. Met this girl. I was like, yo, I was head over heels for her. I was like, wow, like pretty as shit, boom. And she was wearing glasses at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. Like, I don't know. I had a thing for women that wore glasses. I thought, she was absolutely beautiful. I literally then, noticed that, the glasses and, like it was something permanent. Like, it wasn't just for show. Like, her vision was really bad. But, like, I don't know. I look at photos of us back then and I'm just like in awe, like, wow. Like, because she is the person she is now is not the person she was back then. She was a bit more aggressive, a bit more scary to me back then. Like, I feared her more than she probably feared me. But I guess it's because she was around this shit more than I was. Because I was like some of the first piece of cat I ever got in the city. And that took me a while to get. So I really enjoyed it. And, it was fun. It was great. But during that relationship, a lot of things where I messed up at was like not getting to know her as a person, not getting to understand her, the way she thought about certain subjects and the way she thought about life. I couldn't see, the things she wanted because she never, sat me down and said, look, hey, this is what I want to do. And this is what, I'm looking forward to doing, because at that age, I'm talking about, I was like 19, I was 19. She was 18 and we was just, we would spend, days and sometimes, basically days arguing, fighting. We spent some hours too. I'm not gonna say it was all bad. We spent hours talking and know, um, making out and doing a lot of shit. Which brought a life into this world. So at that point, I was young. I didn't understand, what she wanted out of life. I didn't understand how she saw life. I couldn't, grasp from my own experiences, being the fact that I was a kid from the Caribbean. So, I just thought like, hey, I love you. And, and I thought it was going to work out. I really thought it was going to work out. But, lo and behold, something manifested and and she got angry and I got locked up. I got locked up not once but twice, and things just didn't work out. We went our separate ways, and she moved on with her life and I moved on with my life, and it was much easier for her to find another partner or find somebody else. But for me, it took me some years to understand, like, yo, well, this is what I want, and this is what I really wanted at the time. I wanted a family, so I met this girl, another girl, I mind you, and I was like, yo, well, this is what I want to do. This is me. So I'm like, yo, I feel like I was head over heels for this woman, I mind you, but something told me, yo, deep in my heart, like, she don't love me like the first one did. The first one was absolutely the first one was absolutely amazing, and the fact that she looked out for me, like I got off work, she like, oh, well, even though I don't think she knew how to do it, but she did wash my clothes for me. She tried her best to cook, even though she couldn't cook as good as I did or I would have. She did her thing, but still, she was more like a I would say a church going woman at the time. She loved her kid, and it was good. But with everything, there's always some lacking. But then you got to think about, damn, I'm willing to lose 95% of 15% that she doesn't provide. So, you then take the 15% and you lose the 95. For some reason, I did that. Not once, but I'd say 95 to like a 15 for the first one, and for the last, I would say it was like 25 to 75, where it was more like 25% of her love and 75% of me, trying to get her to love me. So I had to sit back and just understand, like, shit, this shit called love is not an easy place. And you start to see, like, yo, well, there's things she wouldn't do, and things I have to force. I wouldn't say force her to do, or I would accept from her, because the way I attained knowledge is not the same way she attained knowledge. I found out so much about her, and I knew so much about her family, and I even find myself sometimes still in touch with a couple of her family members, but I try to keep my distance, and the fact, like, I want nothing to do with her. She can go her way. I really don't care about her anymore like that, and she can live her life. I have no ill will towards her. It was just a lesson I learned, and I have to move on. So thereafter, the second what do you call it, go around at this thing called making a family, or having a family, having kids with the person, and trying to build off of that, I had to step back and see, like, I thought I knew this person, but I didn't know this person, and lo and behold, it's like you can be building a house for a woman, and she's gonna ask you to put every dollar you have, every dime and dollar you have, or needless to say, how do I describe this? She expects the same share or the same hand that I have, that she can have. I found myself time and time again, at a loss. I was at a loss. And I thought, having, a kid with this woman, and, trying, just talking about, a family and growing, and, the future with her, that it might change something. It might change, the way she view life, or, like, she would actually work with me. But needless to say, none of that shit happened. None of it happened, and I am the only person to blame about this, because sometimes you have to keep shit to yourself and just move that way. And I feel like I am one of those persons who have to just keep shit to myself and do what I have to do and just get it over with, because I know that I'm not gonna have the family I want. I know I'm not gonna have the perfect wife, the house and the home. I'm not gonna have um the kids, running through the house, and I'm not gonna have that. That's not in my future now. I'm past that. I'm not trying to convince no woman to be with me. I'm not trying to convince nobody to stay with me. I'm not trying to convince anyone, to give me some cat. You know, if you either she want to give it or she don't. I'm not gonna hunt her down for that. But get to know people, get to see, and I'm saying this because the first woman, my first child's mother, I was like, bro, I'm like, my within like six to 8 weeks, like, boom, she was pregnant. That's it. Like, I barely got to know her, and then I found out a little later that she was, aggressive, and she was like a little batshit crazy, and she stabbed me here and there, and I had to play dumb towards it, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I would try to hit her, but I'm not gonna hit her with my full force. I'll try to smack her, but I'm not gonna hit her hard to leave a mark because I should say she was light skinned, and anytime, like, if anybody choke her or anybody think, she's gonna have a mark on her skin. So I didn't want that to happen because, like, I ain't really come up around that. So I really didn't want to. I didn't feel like going to jail for nobody, and I still don't feel like going to jail for nobody. But that's not in me. I'm not a person that beat women like that unless you actually come at me and you hurt me. You would have to physically hurt me or something like that in order for me to stop you from hitting me or just some shit like that. I won't go out my way to just slap just to slap some person or hurt some person like that. That's not me. But she was very physical with me, and that's the first time I found out, like, yo, I honestly like the person that fought with me. Like, I liked her at that point. I liked when she got a little physical because after the physical, was then, me apologizing and saying, yo, look, I'm sorry, you had to whoop my ass and, let's get it, boom. And we would make up. That's how things were back then. But now I saw that, like, yo, it doesn't, gain anything. It doesn't, I'm not getting nothing from it. Therefore, with this next relationship, I figured, you know what? I saw this girl and I was like, yo, I was like head over heels for her. I thought, the world of her, and just, like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I feel like I had it in my hand. But just that she expected something which it was not. She expected the world from me, and I couldn't give her that. I couldn't, take a day off to just go out with her and just, chill and relax with her because we used to work the same job, and I was like, yeah, that's it sounds good on paper, but in physical and actual, real life, it doesn't work because one of us has to lose a day's work or a day's pay, and I pay my own rent. I don't pay, rent with my family, and we don't have our own place. It's just me, and I gotta pay for what for where I stay. I can't just and I didn't have money like that back then. So lo and behold, she felt away because I used to dress myself poorly, but anything my kids needed, I always had money. I've always, like, hey, you need this, boom, boom. Well, you want half, boom. Whether I had the money in my pocket or, my first child's mother had to pay for it, and I give her the money like the following week when I got paid, because I was living check to check. I didn't understand, the value of a dollar. I never understood, like, like anything. I just bought stuff just to buy stuff, and then couple months later it break, and then I'll buy it again. I'll buy something else, and I just wasted money. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of bullshit, a lot of money on bullshit, which I now, can't use, or it's outdated, or I can't even look back and say, I got it. But I've been jabbering on for a while now, but let me get to the point, because, all I wanted was a family, but all I had was kids. And I see that, after the fact of me trying to convince these women that I love them and try to grow with them, it all came down to, the value of $1 in their eyes. I noticed that through the fact that, like, I took care of my daughter. I tried to tell, her, like, yo, listen, let's do this, and, we can do this then, because I got a little sum I'm working on. Boom. Let's use that to make this happen. Did she listen? No. She had other plans to get the money and do what she wanted to do with the income that she got from her tax money, and she did what she wanted. I had no say in it, and I honestly couldn't say anything. And I had to realize time and time again, I would make plans, and I would have my little pocket there. I'm saving. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. Trying to get this off the ground. Trying to get that off the ground. But I really depended on, that large sum of money coming in. I was like, yo, you know what? What is it? 3,000, 3,500, and then 2,700. And I was like, oh wow. Like, that's a lot of money. Boom. But greed took these women over, and they said to themselves, like, hey, I don't give a fuck about this nigga. Like, I'm gonna keep this shit for myself, and I'm gonna do what I want to do. So they did what they wanted to do, and they didn't care about anything I had to say or anything, because they had money in their hand. They had me. Not only I was paying cock tax. I was paying cock tax. I still am paying cock tax, but they did what they wanted to do. They ended up leaving me. They moved on with life. Some of them have more kids, and they both had more kids. But I had to see, like I had a vision of, coming together and us buying a house, us getting a place, and all of this stuff. But then, they had a vision of, them doing the same thing, but with other people. So I can't knock them for that. So before you even dive into, having kids with a woman, or even, get to know these people, get to really know these people. And I'm talking about, find out their history, find out, like, who they loved, and, the way they loved this person. And, if just, you gotta move different. And I would suggest, like, don't just have a kid with a woman because she's pretty, because you're setting yourself up for 18 years, sometimes 21 years of child support. Whether you can pay it or not, the judge is going to get it out of you. Like, they're going to get it out of you. So be careful with your seed, man, and just, play your cards right. Make sure you always have your own. Make sure you can always, pay your rent. Make sure you can always, you have something to fall back on before you even think about, even busting a nut all up in shorty. You gotta know what you want. So just I'm a little random, but still, like, I wanted a family. I wanted to come home and have my kids, meet me at the door, maybe leaving their shoes at the door, or just the simple things. And mind you, I always knew I was gonna only have 2 kids, because I wrote this shit down when I was younger. I was like, yo, I'm gonna have a boy and a girl. For some reason, I said that. This shit happened, So you gotta be careful what you say and how you think. But there's always that one other kid that you always write down, in the back of your mind, which you don't have. But you learn your lesson. You don't want to do the same thing over and over again, because then you just seem like you're crazy. Like, why am I gonna go have kids with another woman if I can't even even if the women that I used to love, the women I used to care for, the women I used to, you know, they don't even trust you. They don't even trust me. You know, they don't even trust the fact that I'm a man of my word and I mean what the fuck I say. And, you know, sometimes you might be dependent on them, and then they build in somebody else's castle. They build in their own castle. You know, you putting food in their house, and you doing this for them, and, you know, they doing it for somebody else. So just be careful, my guys out there. Just watch your back. Just be careful. I promise you, like, and I tell you this, despite what you think, the women from another country, it's not gonna work out. Honestly, it's not gonna work out. You need a woman that's on the same mind frame as you. You guys live in the same neighborhood. She knows what you go through. You know what she go through. Y'all both on the same working level. Don't think because you flew to another country that you're gonna get away with it, and you're just gonna get off. You're not white. You're not a white boy. Most of these white boys come up with some amazing plans to go to Thailand and go all over the world and have kids with a woman. Convince her for several months. I don't know how they do it, but they convince a woman for several months. Beat bass, have kids, and by the slip of a knot, they out of there. I don't know how they do it, but that's something I want to try one of these days. I might fly to what is it? Thailand, the Philippines, or at least someplace in the world that like, just have some kids and just be out like the white boys do. I'm joking. But yeah, man. So yeah, like, you just gotta be careful, man. Just make sure she knows where you come from. Make sure you know where she come from. And listen to me. Don't ever feel like you saving a woman from her situation, because as much as you think you're saving her from her situation, she needs to feel it in order to know, like, yo, well, I have a good man. And sometimes you might not even be a good man. You might just be a real nigga sometimes. Like, yo, bitch, what you doing? You need to get up. You need to do this. You need to do that. And then they still won't listen to you, and they do what they want when they want. So, listen, I could go on about this for days or weeks. And this is not about bitter baby mamas or anything like that, because these are women that, moved on with their life. We don't have any hostility against each other. We're there for our kids, and anytime they need something, they call me, and I'm not bitter towards them, their husbands, or anything. And you would find that, well, I found that I really couldn't care less about the men they have now, because sometimes, like, I'll be honest with you, like, both of them got married, and I can only say, like, one of these guys, like, I don't even know the guy's name, but I wish him I had to wish him well at some point. Like, yo, best of luck to you, bro. I wish you well. I hope this relationship you have with her prospers, and you guys are able to come together as one. But at that point, what he didn't realize was that, like, my son was 18, and I no longer really had to, like, deal with her. So like, I really couldn't care about him and her relationship, because I honestly didn't have a relationship with her as much now. Like, I can't ask her to do anything for me. I can't ask her to just shit for me. She's found somebody else. She's doing her own thing, and I respect that. I love that for her. So I'm like, hey, I don't have to contact her about anything. If I need anything, I feel like I might that's when I hit her up. Other than that, no. Like, I don't I stopped, communicating. I was like, yo, listen, I'm wasting my time. But this is something which he wanted, and he saw, you know, value within, something which I threw away, or something I didn't make good use of. So I can't knock him for that. He loves her, and I hope that's what they can stand on, But all I ended up doing was having kids with women, rather than the family, having the foundation and having the the solidarity within, the family unit. And I've always heard about this in was it science class and economic, what is it, during school, I should say, during school, like, nuclear families and all this stuff. And it's like, your mother's there, your father's there. And I wanted that for my kids, but unfortunately it was not thing, because every child is growing up, and every child is growing up different. We all didn't come from a silver spoon. We all don't have two loving parents. We all don't have people that really care about us. We have, and I noticed this a lot too, like a lot of women will go and have kids with a man knowing that they don't want to be with this man, but all they want is an income from this man. And I mean, it hurts, but even more, it's going to hurt the child in the long run, because at the end of the day, you still want to know your father, you still want to know your father's family. You want to know your mom, you want to know your mom's brother, sister. You want to be a part of a family. But most people don't think like that. Most people think for themselves, and in that moment, they make stupid decisions based on short-term expenses. Like, you'll see a woman go and put a man on child support all because she can do it, but she don't know she's fucking his future goals up, where the income would be larger if he was able to do this job, he was able to do that job, then she can, but hey. Anyway, I figured I've talked enough. Hopefully, anyway, talk to y'all later. Stay safe, stay blessed, and be careful who you bust a nut in, my nigga. Like, just be careful, man. I'm telling you, this shit could turn from fucking gold to fucking silver and then become bronze or some fucking rust within a couple of months to years, bro. So play your cards right, and just be careful, all right?